Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone watching wherever and whenever you are. Welcome to our Q&A stream. How did we want to do this? I am Sam, the chairperson, and I believe we shall go around just saying our name and what we did in the stream. So I will start with Beth.
Hey everyone, I'm Beth, and I was the more admin person, so I did the organisational side of things behind the scenes.
Awesome. Then we have Dennis.
Hi, I'm Dennis. I hosted some of the streams, and I'm here to ask questions.
Yes, he is our host. And then we have Charlie.
Hi, I'm Charlie. I was the kind of creative director. I was the brain behind a lot of the story and the Monday and Saturday DM.
And we have John.
Hi, I'm John. I was the promotional manager, and I was the Wednesday DM for The Price of Perfection.
Thank you, John. I'm not sure if it's for everyone, but his camera isn't moving for me.
Yeah, it's same.
Awesome. Oh, there he
There
is.
we go. There he's back.
And then finally, last but not least, we have Crit.
Can't hear you.
Who, yes, we
Yeah,
cannot hear
muted.
Crit. There we go.
I have
Good
to
start.
have
Good
to make
start
sure
all around.
everything is muted, and then I unmute everybody except myself. So I'm Crit, otherwise known as Sugar Crit, and I was brought on to essentially teach everybody how to stream, which includes unmuting microphones.
Yeah.
I was also responsible for a large portion of all the graphics, and responsible for redoing all the graphics close to the end. So a lot of the visuals that you saw, that was my job.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here. And I think to kick stuff off, we do have already a question in the chat. So Dennis, who will be our question master for today, if you would.
I get to do things.
You do.
So yeah, the question from Phil1840 was, how did you get into D&D? So I think best way to do it is just go around. So if we start with Beth. Beth, how did you get into D&D?
So I started playing because my boyfriend played and got our friendship group into it, and then I came to uni and found my first proper group, and the addiction began, including the addiction to dice.
Ah, yes. The plastic little click clacks.
Dice Goblins, unite.
Charlie, what about you?
I got into D&D about 3.5 years ago. Started off actually with, I don't know if anyone's played it, the MMORPG Neverwinter. And
I have
kind of
played
got into the fantasy element with that. My friends we all figured out that it was based off this game, Dungeons & Dragons. I then moved to sixth form, but found a group of players who needed a DM. Decided, yeah, I could do that. Picked up a book and started running with it. And here we are now, addicted to dice, addicted to games, and help.
Yeah. John, what about yourself?
So I got the first time I knew what D&D actually was when Achievement Hunter did Heroes and Halfwits.
I watched that.
season.
That was so good.
And I just loved every second of it. And then I came to uni because I grew up in a small town in Yorkshire where, like, the satanic cult thing was still a thing, I'm pretty sure, and we had potato Wi-Fi, still do. So when I moved to Salford, I went to Fanboy Free. Little shout out for these guys. Went to an Adventure League night and made some really good friends there. And then obviously Sam set up the SU Tabletop Society and met all you. So that was fun. That's how I got into it.
Sam?
I do not remember exactly when or how it happened. You're probably all going to be very disappointed, but I first heard about it because they played it on The Big Bang Theory, and then I bought the books, I had the books for about a few months before I got other people interested, and then, yeah, I basically just bought the books and read them and was very interested, and then persuaded all of my close friends to also be interested against their will,
Yeah.
to come roll plastic clickety clacks with me.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that how we all got our first D&D game going? Was just like accosting friends. What about you, Crit?
So for me, it was about 3-ish years ago, and again, it was brought in by peer pressure. A friend, don't do drugs, guys, but do D&D.
The best addiction.
The best addiction. There was they wanted to have a go at DMing, and I'd never done sort of like D&D, old school D&D, but I've always played like role-playing games or various different types of RPs, like text-based RPs and things like that, or created my own stuff. So I had a background in that side of things. And I also had a background in theatre, and it just seemed like something that was right up my street. And then I
Fair
found dice. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Lickety
my
clack.
collection's in my drawer next to me, just like wanting to be let
I
out.
have
I've got
my
this
dice
big
bag
bag
up here.
over here. That's my addiction.
I keep
Everyone
mine in
know
a
you're
tray now.
For
I keep
me-
mine in like this handy little box so I
Yeah.
can threaten people by showing them the
Yeah.
dice.
For me, if it matters, I got into D&D about 12 years ago when my dad, when I was at the tender age of 10, and my dad pulled out his old pre-first edition D&D magazines and played and set up a game for me and my brother.
that's
And
awesome.
yeah, and then about a week later, I told him I wanted to DM a game for him, and then I didn't play for 3 years. So that's what my dad did to me, because my dad is a worse player than I am.
We love to get parental approval for our weird hobbies.
Yep.
Right, what
you
were you
seen
going to
the book
say?
last
That
night?
dice was.
So Sam, there's a question for you. Are you
Yes.
related to Richard Ayoade?
Unfortunately not, no. But since high school, everyone compares me to him. And, I don't see it. Like, hairstyle different, the way I talk quite matter-of-factly about stuff,
Yeah,
slightly nasal voice. I mean, two different people.
yeah, very, very different.
We've
There's
never
no
been seen in the
resemblance.
same room together, I will say that.
Right, we've got Ion a Boo Boo, a Babu. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm gonna butcher names, and I hope everyone in the chat knows that. Are there any future streams in the pipeline? If so, will it be strictly D&D, or will it branch out into other systems, or maybe even other tabletop games? I can
Sure.
I can say as the future secretary that we have an idea for some, maybe. Charlie, I think you had your hand up as well as.
Sam can go first. Sam has
Okay.
something first.
Yeah, well, we tried doing a few streams before. Beth did some Stardew Valley. I tried playing some Overwatch. But as far as future streams, it definitely probably won't be strictly D&D. As far as it goes, it's just finding people that will be able to regularly do it. And in this term, we don't have any plans for the end of this term, but we do have a new committee coming in for next year, and in quite a few of their manifestos, they were like, yes, more streaming, it's been going good. And I'm pretty sure we definitely will be having another one of these charity live streams next year. Maybe even in person, if the world ceases burning
Like our
as
original
it is.
plan.
Like
Yeah,
our original plan.
like that we don't have to replan and reschedule and reorganize.
Yeah.
Charlie, do you have anything to add on to that?
Well, as someone who's coming back to society next year, definitely want to do more streams. As for is it going to be D&D? I love D&D. I'd do it again. But something that could be really cool is Cortex. It's a kind of build your own RPG system. So it'd be cool to actually get the society to build the RPG that we play on stream for a charity. And that way, my mic's falling. The society gets some control over it, stuff like that.
John?
I would love to see the society do more Call of Cthulhu sort of stuff next year, because I'm a huge horror and mystery fan, as you can tell from the game I ran on Wednesday. So, yeah, if anyone wanted to do a Call of Cthulhu game, I'd totally be up for doing a stream of that.
All right. Sugar Crit?
In terms of the stream itself, what we've managed to achieve from just doing this one, it's opened up so many more doors that the society can now do with streaming. So we're hoping with just a few more little tweaks for things for this week, will actually mean that the society will have an affiliated streaming account. So it means that we'll be able to do more in terms of bringing in donations, bringing in subscriptions, offering more to the people who come in and watch the streams. So definitely streaming for the society and streaming a variety of different games is something that can be on the future timetable.
We also, I would like to say, got a lot of feedback and really useful advice from How to Be a Great GM that we will definitely be using for future streams. So yes, there will be some stuff hopefully on the horizon. I guess for Charlie, Other Humanoid wants to know is Cortex an RPG creation kit or an RPG where you roleplay creating RPGs?
It is a creation kit, if I recall correctly. I haven't versed myself incredibly with Cortex for a while, so maybe someone. But if I recall correctly, it is you create an RPG that you can. You create an RPG that you then play.
Cool. Sam?
I do not know much about Cortex personally, but there is a stream that did use Cortex to build the RPG system. It is called Into the Motherlands, and it was a sci-fi based one, and like the amount of detail that the RPG goes into, like from the sound of it, Cortex can do a lot. So honestly, that sounds really exciting. So
I'd love to do one.
Miabu 122 wants to know, what was your favorite moments, whether as a DM or a player? Which moment did you enjoy the most? We'll start with Beth, I guess.
I've got so many. I think the ones that come straight to my mind are Nate's ending of the game on Friday night, where he tied it into the overall story, and John's Avengers Assemble moment yesterday. That was just incredible. But the entire streams, like, they were all amazing.
Charlie.
Ooh, this is hard. As a DM, again, John's Avengers Assemble moment was super dope. I loved it. There was another moment, and it's fell from the back of my mind. That was also in the same game. The Bolt
Boys
scene where they intimidated a Bolt into moving. I thought that was quite good.
That was cool.
It was assisted by John singing Old Town Road in a Yorkshire accent.
Yeah, we also had the Backstreet Boys rendition at the end, which I think has to be high on anyone's list. If it's not, I feel like we failed.
I feel like I'm going to get tortured with the piece of information that clip exists for the rest of my life. Anytime I'm doing well in life, I've got a good job, someone's going to send that clip to my employer, and it's back down to the gutter for me.
John, what about yourself?
Definitely the Super Saiyan Avengers Assemble moment. And oh god, I'm trying to. Honestly, like, it's all kind of mashed into one for me now at this point. I don't really know anymore. I suppose when Charlie broke the curse of the Book of Vile Darkness in my game, that was a
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah.
Oh wait, sorry, is there more?
No, that's it.
Okay, Sam.
No. My favorite DM moment. I love it when players do stuff unexpected, and nothing was more unexpected than Fergus's character doing an intimidation check by pulling out a hyper-realistic naked portrait of
Yeah.
Thor.
Yeah.
First intimidating it, and then giving it as a gift to remove at least 3
Yeah.
enemies from the battle. That was
a whole thing.
the whole thing that happened.
Yeah.
And as a player, all of Charlie's game is really, really good. On it, because I don't know if it was much talked about, but all of our groups created the characters we played in the final game, and
Except
honestly,
for mine.
except for yours.
Mine
But
was me.
I kind of left my plays too, and then came back to it later, and just seeing the character, and then going into notes and seeing that I had a fear of all garden things because I was once mistaken for a garden gnome and trapped for weeks on end. I have to say I couldn't do any better myself.
And Crit.
I was only a player in one game, so in the one game I was in, definitely enjoyed the chance to actually do some vehicle combat. Something I've not been able to do
Yeah.
in a game before. That was a lot of fun.
And Avernus has some really cool
Yes.
vehicle combat. That, like, one of the big selling points. If anyone in the chat hasn't had a chance to play some of the Avernus
Go do it.
vehicle
Go do it
combat,
now.
it's really cool.
Being
Well, not right
a
now.
mad
Watch the stream.
being a Mad Max style tabaxi on the
Yeah.
in hell.
Yeah.
There's not many chances you get to do that, so that was awesome.
Yeah.
But outside of that game, one of my favorite moments of the week had to have been, I think it was in Sam's game, the entire group figuring out the word puzzle.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
Because-
was a moment of sweet release.
I was sat in McDonald's drive-through with that on, like me and my partner with that on the radio, and we were just laughing our asses off, going like, we were trying to
Yeah.
figure it out, and even we were
Yeah.
going, I don't understand. How does this work?
No. I think the point at which we were suggesting maybe we just send the barbarian to run and like see what happens. That was the point that we knew that we'd broken as a party. Right,
I
then
think I
we've
put
got
a message in I think in that I did put a message in chat saying this puzzle has one fatal flaw. I can't read. Run straight through.
yeah. Chaos Lesbian Clone Warren, I think, is how that all comes out.
amazing.
What do you
Your
think we
username.
could do? What do you think we could do better next time? I can say English words. Beth.
Can. I think next time there are some things I would do differently in how I organize things. And also, tip for anybody ever organizing anything, put a preferred form of communication thing down on every single form you have. Because obviously we were changing this over from in-person sign-ups from last year to, hey, do you still want to play this year? And people don't check their emails, is the one thing I have learned. And you can message somebody on something, chase it up with someone else, and they're like, oh, message them on this, and they don't check Messenger. Just be thorough in your initial communication. is what I would say for next time. But also don't have a pandemic in the middle. That's also
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, that would have helped.
Because we personally planned that.
Yeah.
We won't
Yeah,
do that next time.
Unfortunately, we mistimed the release of COVID for when we wanted to do the charity live stream, and it was all just a bit.
Yeah, Dennis actually kept COVID in a briefcase and he dropped it in McDonald's one day, and that's just how it happened.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
He used to work for the guys that made Cyberpunk, but I mean, they fired him. He was too on time.
Yeah. Oh, jeez, Sam. No.
Damn.
No. Moving on, Charlie. Charlie, please.
What the question is? What could we do better? Story-wise, what could we do better? That's a good question. Part of me wants to see more like if we did something similar, I'd want to see them more interlinked. You know, kind of like each campaign, each session is directly linked to the other one. Kind of like how Nate's ended, leading directly into the final session. But obviously, that does mean that people have to watch all the streams to get any of them. So it's kind of a balancing act of how much story you want to throw in each game versus how easy you want to make it for people to watch. But it'd be nice to do more kind of intense stories for charity, I think.
Cool. John?
I suppose from the promotional side, having someone spell check my work would be good. Because there might have been one or two emails that I sent that may have had the odd spelling mistake in. But I mean, to be honest, having an extra person to do promotion would be great. Because, like, I would send out emails, and all my emails, Twitter DMs, Instagram DMs were just linked to my phone. So I would just get emails throughout the day while I was at work, while I was making food, and I would just, you know, if an email came at 2 a.m. if I'm asleep, I just wake up, reply to the email, because,
Yeah.
you know, people want information. You want to be like quick and timely about it, but it'd be like, it would have been nice just have like another person to be like, you do these halves, I'll do these halves. But then again, it's that thing of like having one line of communication is quite important when it comes to like promotion. So it's one of those.
Yeah, brilliant. Sam?
From the music aspect of things, probably try, because I don't want to say start earlier because I thought I started okay, but I just ran out of time very, very quickly. Probably just make a bit more variety, because even some of the ones I was listening to, I was like, that's a bit samey after a while. But that's my musical ear picking up on that. But I don't know. More prepare earlier, probably, and get everyone sorted earlier. But I suppose that ties in with Beth's communication thing, where we try to get it sorted earlier, but communication is always a tricky one in life in general.
Yeah. And Crit? I'm assuming yours would be the same as mine, which is more time.
Yeah,
Please.
I mean the thing. I think the big thing to take away from this is that this is the first time any of particularly you guys and for me with this as well, the first time we've attempted anything like this. It's been a learning experience from start to finish. So it was never going to be perfect going into it. And the idea that we were going to go in and know absolutely everything and do everything right straight away was that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
That would have been stupid to have assumed that.
Magical Christmas land.
Yeah. So on one thing, the idea of like, what have we learned and what would we do differently? Well, a lot of things, because we've learned so much. Either from just doing things ourselves or from the feedback we've got from other people, and what we can take away from this and go into for next time is just astounding. Because we can come at it from an organization point of view, knowing time is a massive thing of just how long it actually takes for a lot of these different tasks.
Yeah.
putting together a stream is not an easy thing. People sort of think that, okay, it's just going to be, we'll download an overlay and we'll get going, and bim bam boom, an hour later and you're done. It's like, nope, not even remotely close. It's weeks and weeks and weeks of prep just for one small portion.
We did a whole week of me and Em and the players from the stream on almost every day, doing sorting out the overlay and cameras and making sure that everything worked and audio was coming through and everyone knew the apps we were using and stuff. It was a big work. It was,
and there's still things missing. I mean, things that we would have loved to have had, like having donation links and donation updates live on the overlay. That would have been amazing to have included. And unfortunately, just simply didn't have the time. But we,
she had to teach me how to do things, and I am a slow learner.
I had 2 weeks to teach Dennis with no background in streaming.
No, I had nothing. I had no idea.
2 week crash course.
I had internet. Yeah, I was chosen. Don't think I'm special. I was chosen because I have a computer that is plugged into the internet. Right? That's it. That was my criteria. That was my. That was the whole shebang.
It was like, you are the chosen one.
Yeah, I am the chosen one with the Ethernet cable. Yeah.
So definitely for next time, understanding time constraints.
Yes.
Or get a time turner.
Or get a time turner. Either
time turner would be good.
Time dilation fields of some description, or understanding the constraints that are in place, so that we know exactly how long things are going to take going forward, so we can implement those things and then communicate them out to everybody involved.
Yeah. Good. Right, there's another question that I guess is for Sam mostly, but also John and Charlie, I guess, get an input on this, which is, when's our charity album coming out, guys? When we doing it? When we getting?
Unfortunately, the donation page has closed, so it won't be a charity album as such.
But we can either do it as like a summertime jams one, or maybe a Christmas album, or because of how terrible it was, maybe a Halloween album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the real problem is
haunting. I think is probably the vibe we should go for, because Sam has some musical talent. The rest of us,
excuse me.
Speak for yourself.
I don't know what you mean.
I generally did. I was part of a musical society before I moved to Salford.
All right.
Specifically an operatic society. I did musicals.
I think also, to be fair, not doing it over Discord.
I mean,
the best thing.
What John's not telling you is he was the roadie.
Discord lag. We had Discord lag mixed in with the tone deafness of at least two of us, right? And it all just went a bit. It was hilarious, but
it was amazing.
Probably not a great idea. Right. Then we got from Megadork. Great name.
Hey.
How did you come up?
Could be.
How did you come up with the story for all the games? So I guess that's you, Charlie. How did you come up with the overarching big story?
That's a long one. So the story kind of started with me, Sam, Nate, John, and a few other people in a tiny little meeting room at the society, right by where we had our tabletop society. And we had a whiteboard and we started just figuring things out. And the one thing that we wanted to kind of convey was these games were supposed to show why we love D&D. And my personal take on why I love D&D is I love telling stories. I come from a family of storytellers. A lot of people on my mother's side are storytellers. So I wanted to tell a fun story with all my friends. So that's where it started. And the first game wasn't originally going to be... It was going to be Beth. But then Beth had to drop out. And in a discussion setting up these games with Beth had this amazing idea they were going to be working for this wizard, and they had to collect these kind of ingredients for a spell that the wizard was going to do, and then it all goes wrong, and that kickstarts the whole thing. And I thought that was amazing. So when Beth dropped out, I asked, could I take that and keep that? And she said yes. And we started running from there, and it eventually ended up with the old wizard, whose family had all passed on, who was trying to make a story that would never end. It eventually gave him infinite power, and the rest of the games followed to collect the artifacts that they needed. So it was kind of a very long, arduous process of, well, this would be cool, and this would be cool. Let's put it all in.
Fair enough. Awesome. Right. This is a question I think we can all answer in unison, and I hope that everyone can join in with this. Was it hard getting it to work and getting organized?
Yes.
3, 2,
Yes.
1.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes. Yes. So hard.
I've put more hours into organising this than my dissertation, and I honestly wish I was joking.
Yeah. I think in terms of getting it to work, we were actually really, really lucky that we only had one proper technical issue.
Well,
So,
maybe
during the
two.
whole-
Maybe
Maybe 2.
Maybe two. I would
Maybe
go.
two.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say there were two things that I would say were proper technical issues.
Yeah.
Like
One
my
that
potato
wasn't-
Wi-Fi.
One that wasn't a real technical issue, but was a slight mad rush on Saturday, which was down to me not realizing I didn't have internet for an entire day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
That
fun.
happened.
So we were very, very lucky that they were
Yeah.
they were more mishaps.
They were
than...
were minor technical
Yeah.
difficulties. I think the only main, like, the major technical difficulty we had was with the stream lagging on Thursday.
Thursday was the
and
biggest technical difficulty
that
where we
was-
had
that
to actually
was-
switch hosts
Yeah,
halfway through.
That was the big bad one.
Yeah.
But
That was
other
a big
than that, we
Twitch
were
issue, though,
really-
wasn't it?
I think that might have been a Twitch. I don't know. I
was a-
don't know enough about streaming.
Yeah, it seemed to be a mixture of a Twitch issue and a something up with the internet at Dennis's. Either way, the combination of the two, it was resolved once we switched hosts.
Yeah.
But it was that was the biggest technical issue that we had.
Yeah.
In terms of organizing players and timings and things, let's just say that a lot of personal lives were put on hold for a
Yes.
number of weeks.
Yeah. A lot of us did have to put a lot of the stream stuff ahead of what we may or may not have been doing. But we really enjoyed doing the stream as well. So it's all worked out
Stream was
really well.
amazing, honestly.
Yeah. And we are still, at least I'm still dumbfounded at how we've raised so much money.
Oh
Like-
my god, don't even mention it. It's still not real to me. Like, I look at the donation screen and I'm like, nah, we didn't raise that much. That's just
Nah.
a number.
That must be in pennies.
It's Bitcoin,
It's like-
right? It's Bitcoin.
It's also like if I was just to add something, like even though we've been organizing this and doing it for the past 6 weeks, it's not the only thing we've been doing. Like, I work 40 hours a week. Like, I'm alumni and stuff, and also like we have to fit in like meal times and
Yeah, people
actual
have to
time
eat.
and like sleeping, like
We have to be
You know-
real people at times.
Yeah. I distinctly remember putting sleeping on hold for a bit.
Yeah.
Which,
it was like the best promotional stuff I was doing was while I was like fixing a radiator at work, because I was like one hand with a wrench and like one hand with the phone, like sending emails to people.
So this is a great advertisement for if you want to go do your own stream. Real easy,
yeah, super simple.
put your
guys.
lights on.
Straightforward.
simple.
To be fair,
I
though,
mean,
like
it is
we went
worth it.
ambitious with our stream. We were
Oh, we
ambitious.
did.
It
We-
wasn't just
we-
like one night for 4 hours. It was 6 nights between 6 groups of people.
Yeah. I mean, how
Yeah,
many people
5
were
DMs.
involved in total? Like in the actual
total?
stream?
I'd say about 40.
Yeah.
30 or 40 altogether, because obviously there was crossovers and everything. But yeah, I think it's between 30 and 40.
Yeah.
And then
So-
the promotional people on top of that,
Mm-hmm.
and then the outside people who we either brought in for commission for art or music. There was a lot of people involved
It's
and
so
managing.
Yeah.
It was,
And then
it was a
to
huge
shoot-
project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
To
big.
shoot ourselves in the foot even more, as was kind of told to us in the meeting, we'd actually picked one of the least opportune times to get viewers.
Yeah. Yeah.
We-
'cause
so we kind
picked
of-
a week before payday or something.
And timing
was
the
was
time-
not hitting America.
Oh yeah.
So, and even in the UK, we'd picked a time that kind of people were just getting home from work, so there wasn't as many people on Twitch. So we
Yeah.
picked an inopportune time. We had to wrangle like 40 people together in this like Icarian kind of attempt at something great, and we still managed to do pretty friggin' well.
Yeah. So that I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat at the moment. So, we're gonna very quickly go to each person and give them a chance to talk about how they did their role and what their role involved and stuff like that. Beth, how
So
did you do organizing people?
a cat wrangled, quite literally. So initially I had to go through because we set it so anybody wanting to play or DM had to donate £5, so $6.50 to the charity as an entry fee. So we had 30 plus players from last year that I had to go through and contact. Luckily I knew most of their contact, like they were on Discord or Messenger. I had ways to get hold of them. And then there were some people who I just had to email. People, check your emails, please. I beg of you. And then it was a case of filling in players to fill up to a number we needed, because ideally we needed 4 players per game. Then it was organizing groups and just making sure the organizational info and timings happened. So making sure consent forms were in before we started streaming, and just making sure information got out to everybody. And in the end, we had quite a nice little pyramid scheme of communication from me to the DMs to the players. It's the best form of communication, and harassing people to donate. I got quite good at that in comments.
We love a good pyramid scheme.
It's the only time I will support it is for communication, because it works.
I still remember getting a message off someone that I'd never met before, like, "Hey, you want to be a player, right?"
That was me.
And I was just like, sure.
You have been randomly selected out of a choice of 20.
I have been randomly selected out of
Come
a choice
on
of
down.
not as many people as we need. For me, my entire thing for my role was just listening to M and Crit and doing everything she said down to a T, and nothing like having no original ideas and just listening to what she told me.
Except for the one time where we did try and go rogue and got
Yeah,
told
we
off.
tried to go rogue and immediately got told off.
Yeah.
In a nice way. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was told off in the very nicest way possible. But
You got
still,
congratulated for thinking outside the box, but corrected.
but told, don't you dare.
Don't do it again.
Charlie, how did you do your role?
So mine was rather simple, and I actually count myself very lucky with my role. So obviously, I had a story in mind, then I had to go with the DMs. So some of the people here and some of the people who aren't, and basically say, right, this is what's going to be happening in the first and last game. How can we tie that into your game? So through just like 10, 15-minute meetings every couple of weeks. I got to sit down and talk to these guys about their D&D games. Now, very luckily, every person who DM'd a game was an amazing DM. So I didn't really have to do much. I just had to make sure the story was cohesive, and those guys did the rest. It was mostly, hey, this fits in, that's brilliant, and they went from there, and we kind of had to grow together. So I know Nate's game, the very ending of Nate's game changed a lot, because obviously we had discussed that we wanted to have the area of Avernus get wiped out by the big bad at the end of the session. Because the big bad changed so much, and that story didn't get finalized until about a month and a half before the stream. It was originally going to be like a wave of ethereal energy. It was going to decay into puzzle pieces at one point, I think. But eventually we kind of settled on this motif, and it was basically doing that with all of DMs and communicating to them about how we wanted to do this and how we wanted to write our stories.
Are you saying, Charlie, that we had to game to grow?
Yes. Now, excuse me while I go vomit in this bucket off screen.
There were too many puns this week.
Yeah. John.
I was waiting for a CinemaSins voice to say roll credits.
John, how did you do your promotional role, which we've already heard a bit about how you did it?
So it kind of... I did my degree in history, and I did my master's in intelligence security and security studies, and the main thing about that was research. So a lot of it was just researching people's accounts to make sure that they hadn't posted anything that would look bad on the society or the charity. So anything sort of racist or sexist, or something against mental health, something against vulnerable people. So it was a lot of that. And then it was just persistence. In the thank you video, Sam said I'd reached out to 25 accounts. That's not true. I had a look through my emails and DMs, and I'd sent over I'd sent messages to 173 accounts. So it was 84 over Gmail, 53 over Instagram Messenger, and 33 over Twitter. So, and then out of that 173, about 30 replied, and out of that 17 to 18 said, yeah, we'll help promote your event. Tips on promotion in general. My first one is get a professional sounding email address. So if your email address is dankskank69, nah, get rid of that. Mine was just my personal Gmail.
That's just employability advice. Is just have an email that isn't dankskank69.
Yeah. So the email I used was just my personal one, so it was which I won't give out because I don't want people just sending me random emails. Yes, and then
Dox yourself, John.
Yeah. And if you can remember in English GCSE where they taught you how to write letters, that's actually quite useful advice, teaching how to write a letter, because it's the exact same thing you have to do on an email. Oh, dear to whoever this may concern, I am writing to you on behalf of such and such, and then at the end, yours faithfully, John Newhouse.
We've been asked, is that your old email then, John? Dankskank69 at whatever. Is that what you used to use and then you changed
at
it?
AOL.com.
Yeah, at AOL.
AOL.
Has to be at AOL.
No, my old email address was farmboy83.
Okay.
That's believable.
Deep Herder 69. There we go.
Sam.
Old email address.
Okay, we're gonna very quickly move on before any jokes are made about that. Sam, what about yourself? What did you do to do your role as chairperson of the society?
I mean, that role
told us what to do.
Can go, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, please do this, real help. As I thought, being chair wasn't a big part of doing the stream because it was a very big team effort between what everyone did. so I wouldn't say that affected it much. But as doing the music for it all, that consisted in me going to each DM, having a meeting with them, and asking what kind of music, what kind of scenes they were doing, what kind of setting, asking for like any musical inspiration. For example, John said, "I like the Far Cry 4 soundtrack. Do something like that." I did my best.
No pressure.
Well, I just said bells. Put bells in it.
Bells.
So it's to put
You want
church bells in it.
bells.
Bells
Um,
everywhere.
audience.
Bells. Lots of bells.
More cowbell.
Yeah, and
Church bells.
to let you in on a trick of the trade that I did, all the intros, I was like, okay, these are more like overtures, just like a big collection of music. And then for all the loops that you heard throughout the games, I just got bits of the intro and just layered them, adding some instruments, taking away other instruments. And luckily, Sirenscape is an awesome piece of software that let me loop them, and they changed around. So I needed to be especially tricky for that one. So that's how I did the music. Just going game at a time, intro, then turning them into loops, then hoping for the best.
Sounds good. And Crit, what did you do as in your role as technical mastermind and graphic designer?
Well, after I'd had a nervous breakdown from finding out that nothing was in place,
And that she had to teach me, which should cause anyone a nervous breakdown, really. Like,
Don't tell me that.
you've got to teach me next.
No, it was fine. It was great. So there were two basically sides to my role, which were the technical side and the artistic side. So the artistic side included the creation of the promotional material, so that John had something to send to people. That was the posters and the Twitter and Instagram little snapshots, and then banners to go over Facebook. So we created a logo. Well, I created a logo for the Dungeon a Day thing as a whole. Also redesigned a logo for us as a society, because I needed something that I could work with in terms of making something for a D&D aesthetic, and thought a wax seal would be a nice way of having something D&D, but then our logo didn't work. I was like, right, well, I'll just make us a new logo then.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Did you make the animated background as well? Because
Yep.
that is really cool.
Made the animated background. So then I went into doing the overlay, which then was making the overlay itself, and then making the animations, which was a scrolling animated background that was all of the little different hints towards the tabletop society as a whole. There's like little meeples and puzzle pieces and dice and cards, and then then a nice little I forgot what it's called, stinger transition with the new logo on it, so everything looked nice and in keeping. So that was all the graphic side of things, so that everything looked cohesive, and it was rather basic and quickly put together. But at least it all kind of had a nice rusticy D&D feel to it. And then the technical side of it was then making it all work. So that was then every single game had its own setup. All of the cameras had to be put in. So we had technical sessions, making sure that all the players could be seen, could be heard. The transitions between all of the scenes worked. We had a video that Sam had put together, which I then butchered. and changed because I'm a perfectionist.
Improved.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, that doesn't work. I'll remake it.
I think the video worked every night except for last night, unfortunately. And we had to improv a whole thank you to everyone.
It didn't work. And last night was the one night I couldn't watch it because of the internet issues. So I have no idea
Yeah.
what happened last night.
Yeah, the video didn't play. It's fine.
Oh.
Oh well, there we go. There's our technical issue.
Live streaming.
Be prepared for everything, including
Yeah.
when things don't work.
Welcome to How Did We Want to Do This, where Crit gets to read us all to filth.
Yeah.
Well, I think Craig got angry at me because I sent her a message like an hour before the first stream, like, "Hey, two of these promoters on here haven't actually promoted us yet. They said they would, but they haven't done it." And she was like, "Well, there's nothing I can do now." I was like, "Oh, sorry."
It wasn't angry. I don't type very well, so like, I don't communicate very well over text. So I'm always worried that people like read it really angrily. So I have to keep remembering it's like add emojis so that people know you're smiling.
Yeah.
So I'm there
I
going,
think LOL
the
at the
video,
end.
the video takes 20 minutes to remake. LOL.
But luckily, they what was it? And then like the next day, one of them had promoted, and I was like, "Oh, it's okay. This one's promoted now." And then like the Tuesday, the other one did. I was
Yep.
like, "Yeah, he's promoted now. We don't need to change it anymore."
Now that you are finished changing it, we would like you to change it back.
Change it back. Yes. So
yeah.
and then
Now,
my other technical role was then sub-host. So whilst Dennis was actually physically hosting, I would then sit through each of them. I think possibly unbeknown to most people.
I
And-
had no idea, and it kind of affected me.
I would then moderate every game, somewhat secretly, as the main Salford Uni account, and keep everything ticking over. Make sure that the alerts were going out and that they were set up, and do some background housekeeping so that these guys didn't have anything to worry about. And they could just concentrate on what their jobs needed to be.
Yeah. So we got two questions from Phil1840. First one is D&D expensive to start and play? Which I think is the easiest one to answer, which is that depends on whether you want all of the books or not. If you want all the pretty books, then yes. If you don't want all the pretty books, then no. Yeah, Beth?
It also depends on how you acquire the pretty book.
That
Because
is
there
true.
are certain high seas where they can be achieved, words. It's been a long week. Retrieved for minimal cost.
Or no cost.
We do not
It's only
here
the
at
word.
Salford Tabletop promote piracy on the internet.
The clicky clacks are the most expensive thing, I think.
Yeah, I think that's
And
where
they're not
most
even
of your money
necessary,
goes.
technically.
Or you get a full-time job like me and just buy them all on D&D Beyond because you're a baller.
Yeah.
Oh, don't flex that hard,
In
John. I'm
fairness,
sorry, we're not
John.
made of gold.
John, in fairness, I don't have a full-time job and have bought them all on D&D Beyond because I have no respect for my own wealth. Like I see money as I see money and being able to buy food as more of an option than a necessity.
I remember me and Charlie being shocked because you said you had all the books, Dennis.
Yeah.
And we were stood there looking at the message like, wait, he's got the books? How?
It's
Yeah.
not like the worst thing about D&D Beyond is when D&D Beyond came out, every other character creation site decided to shut down conveniently. So the only option to create online is now D&D. $80 worth of book content you have to buy.
Oh, it's more
But it's
than
great
that,
once you
mate.
have it.
It
It's
is
more than that. Like
It's- yeah.
I think I've
Isn't
spent
the big
upwards.
three?
I think I've spent upwards of $300.
Yeah, I know
on
to get everything,
books.
it's insane. I'm pretty sure the big three, the PHP,
yeah.
DMG,
Yeah,
DMM,
I got them
like
years
$80.
ago, and then I decided to buy everything because I'm a madman.
But
And-
to sit and play basic D&D is
Yeah,
how much is like a
completely
pair
free.
of set of dice these days?
You can
Seven
probably get a
quid.
set of dice for less than a $5 on Amazon.
But you don't even
Yeah.
need that because you can use an online dice
Ah.
roller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can use
Google
an app
rolls
on your
dice
phone.
for you. You can literally Google roll a d8.
Yeah,
Well, we
You
had
can-
a funny, me, Beth, and Sam
No
had a really
cost.
funny conversation with how to be a great GM when he said when he grew up in South Africa, he used to make dice with like pencils.
Yeah.
Is it-
my
You are-
dad
really?
has a dice that's a sugar cube that he is painted on. It
So-
still exists to this day, right? The sugar cube is in pieces, like corners are missing, it's like half mangled at one side, but it still exists and he still uses it.
That is not a legally balanced dice.
It isn't.
Ah.
It isn't. He also has half a D20 that he insists on using. He just
that just a
has he
D10?
has dice. No, as in like it's a D20 with holes in it.
Amazing. I have a d20 with a hole in it somewhere, but that's because it's on a necklace.
Yeah. But yeah, so to answer your question, it can be if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. It can be cheap and cheerful and lovely. And the next one from the same Mr. Phil 1840 is, what is your best D&D moment
Ooh.
ever? What's your best D&D moment ever?
I can answer this one.
Okay, go Beth.
So, we were in a game with a deck of many things, and we'd drawn the Avatar of Death, and it was following one of our players, and we lured it into an arena, and I cast Glyph of Warding to trigger when it went over, so I basically landmined death.
I mean, that's really cool. I think my best moment might also be a deck of many things, which is a fairly recent moment that I had as a player, and this is my best player moment, I think, or like one of the best player moments, and the only one that I can like mention on stream without getting in some amount of trouble with Sam and Beth. Is I was about to retire my Warforged Artificer from the campaign that I was in, and so it was like the last session I was going to be in, and we got 2 cards from the deck of many things, and I was like, right, in case something bad happens, I'll draw the cards and you guys can get the reward. So it's only good stuff for you guys, and then I can leave on I think I had a foldable boat, right, that I was going to set sail on a foldable boat and go off into the middle of nowhere. And I first got cursed for a -2 to all saving throws and ability checks, and then got my soul ripped out of my body and placed somewhere in the multiverse.
So
So my artificer on his final session ended up as a potato. He got turned into a potato
Amazing.
by the deck of many things, and that's awesome. Charlie, you got anything?
I'm thinking I've been a DM for my whole D&D career since day one, so I've got a lot of moments. But I think honestly, my favorite D&D moment would have to be the first time I was truly dumbfounded by players. Right, like I pride myself on being able to be like, okay, that's what you're gonna do. Let's improv this. But this was the first time I was like, okay, I guess. And I was running a Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica game in college, and they were fighting a Niv-Mizzet Cyclops, which is basically a giant Cyclops that has power armor that shoots lightning. Very intimidating thing. And rather than running away or trying to fight it, they then decided to pick one of the characters, the Warlock Cleric. I think they're a cleric in this game. And make them as outstandingly beautiful as possible. And instead of running away or fighting this, they convinced this Cyclops to fall in love and marry one of the player characters. The Cyclops then doffed all of its power armor, which was property of the Niv Mizzet, ran off, picked up the party who were kind of intruding in this base to steal something, picked up the party and ran off with the party as the husband of one of the many characters. And I was just like, yeah, you have like a CR13 Cyclops now, guys. I don't know what you're gonna do with it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but he's here now. His name, you've named him Jeffrey, I think it Gerald. He's there. And it was the first moment that I was like, D&D players are weird, man. And it's always stuck with me. Even now, like, 3 years later?
Yeah. I can attest, D&D players are weird. I'm
they
currently
things
running
that you could never expect.
I'm running currently 3 campaigns, and like some of the things that they say that they're gonna do are just. I don't think if you gave me all the time and money in the world, I'd come up with it. We're weirdos.
Yeah.
You got any ideas, John, for what yours would be?
Oh, there's a lot, and 2 come to mind. But I'll just say 1. I was introduced into a campaign that I'd already been playing for about 5 sessions, and I came in with a Goliath Barbarian, because I love barbarians. We came across this well, and we were like, but if you went 25 feet down the well, a trap would trigger and a fireball would be let off. This is something for later, because we were level 3, I think we were. It's like, come back to this many sessions later, don't do it now. But me being like, I think I can outsmart this. I got a shovel and dug down the side of the well and knocked a hole into the side of. I went 40 feet down, knocked a hole into the side of the well, climbed through, and when I climbed through the well, the DM told me, "John, you enter a room," and I'm like, "Oh." He's like, "Yes, there's a lovely bookcase and a leather-bound chair, and there's a lovely carpet and like a nice little fireplace." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And the druid came down with me as well, and they were like, "Well, what is this place?" And he's like, "Then that hole, you know that hole you made?" I was like, "Yeah." It starts sealing back up. So and then the druid was like, "Oh fuck, I'm getting out of it." He dives out, and he was like, "John, what are you gonna do?" "I will rage, and I will take the dodge action." And it turns out I was then trapped in an extra dimensional plane. So this was about 45 minutes into the session where I've just been introduced.
Yeah.
In another plane of existence.
Hell of an introduction.
That's what we like to see. Well done, John.
Wow.
Yeah. Turns out
Tried to
John is the best of
outsmart.
all of us.
I tried to outsmart him. The only
never
other thing
outsmart
that
your
was-
DMs.
Yeah,
Don't
the
fight
only
God.
other thing I was thinking of is when my character was bait for a Tarask. He was a barbarian, Path of the Beast, Gloomstalker Ranger, because that's an awesome combination, with like the mobile feet and some like boots of speed, so he could do like 150 feet around, and then I cast Long Strider to make it 160. So this Tarask was attacking a town. I just ran up to it, punched it in the face, and then run away. And this thing was just chasing me. But I was luring it into a trap where a pirate ship was going to nail it with cannons as I ran past. So I was just running at like 100 miles an hour, just like with Tarask running behind me. That was fun. That was really fun.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Sam, have you got a favorite D&D moment?
I've been racking my brain, but one always comes to mind first, and it's in the game that I run. And the players always do unexpected stuff, obviously. I think a couple of sessions ago, they were like, "We want to, go to a bathhouse because we haven't bathed in this whole adventure that had been going on for 3 years, but that's a different story. But they were at a big party. They'd just done a great thing. They'd saved a whole city, so they were having a big party. They got drunk, and the bard was like, "You know what? The moon is also missing in the campaign." And she was like, "You know what? We should message the moon." So they cast sending. They sent a message to the moon. Obviously, they didn't get anything back, but they still had sending. So one of the players was like, "Oh, you know what? I want to send a message to this one random woman I met in this one random town, and I would like to propose marriage." So they did that over sending, and then the next morning they all forgot about it because they were drunk.
Oh.
So
Did she say yes in the message?
she said yes in the message, but they didn't know that, and they only learnt that about one session ago, and there's like a
Amazing.
year, like a good 3-month gap in game. So that was fun, just knowing
Yeah.
someone's been proposed to, and these people have no idea that they've done it. Drunk
Great.
sending always win.
Crit, do you have a favorite D&D moment?
I've got a few, but one that has always stuck with me was the very, very first time I ever played D&D, and we decided to outsmart a goblin patrol by doing a weekend at Bernie's with the goblin guards that we just killed. So we propped up the body of the goblin guard and used it as a marionette puppet as the goblin guard went past. And yeah, full on weekend at Bernie'd it.
Nice. Can I just? This is a question from me and not from the chat. Did anyone else have that moment when you were playing D&D, like really early on when you started playing, where it sort of clicked that
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want in this game?
Yeah.
Like, and you just kind of hadn't realized until that point, and then you were just like, oh, you mean I can do anything?
That's
That's
the
the
reason
one
I
C
wanted
from
to
Cat in the
play.
Hat.
Yeah,
Anything.
anything.
That's the reason I wanted to play D&D, because I was always I love playing RPG video games, but I was always sick of like not having the right dialogue option or not the right choice. I was like, I don't like any of these options. Like, why can't I have more options? And then D&D was like, you can do whatever you want, say whatever you want. I'm like, oh my god, I need to play this.
Yeah, yeah. Because I always thought that like it was like for the first like month or two of playing it, I was like, oh no, I can only do certain things. There are only certain, and then I learned that that's not the case, and I can just I can be as weird as I would like to be, and that was a very fun realization.
Forget I would like to rage. I would like to weird.
Yeah, I would like to weird, Mr. DM, sir. I would like to weird.
Roll for weird.
I think
Crits
that's
every
that's the wild magic table, isn't it? Rolling for weird.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we got one last question from chat. Do you feel playing D&D has helped in any way with like stress, social anxiety, or such like things for you personally?
I've got one for this.
Yeah.
For me personally, yes, absolutely. I've had a lot of struggles with things like social anxiety and particularly struggling with, well, we just talked about being weird. So having the confidence to be weird with others, I think is a good way of describing it. And even though coming from like a theatre background, it can sometimes be difficult to want to flex those creative muscles in a social space. and D&D gives a space to allow that to happen. You can create without boundaries. I mean, there are boundaries, but they're not.
I mean, I remember one of my friends back at my local LGS saying that D&D is the island of misfit toys, and everyone is welcome.
Yes.
And it's really that's what makes it cool, is that you can be as weird and as strange as you would like.
But you could also be normal. You could be a complete normal person as well.
You could be normal.
If you just want to be an NPC in the middle of weirdos, you could be an NPC in the middle of weirdos.
Yeah. Beth, what you got?
I'm probably a bit different from everyone else because I say yes and no. When I am in the mental space for it and in a good game where I'm vibing, it is amazing and it's a great place to be mentally. Whereas I find this more with DMing, and especially online, which is why I step back. It's quite draining. And if you're not in the best of places, that's not always the right thing for you, because you generally give your all with these games. So sometimes you end up giving too much. But having the right group of players is probably one of the biggest affecting factors, because in my game, I had a bunch of players who understood my passion for what I was trying to do. And it was just that feedback loop of, they love it, I love it, they love it. We're just going to keep going with this.
Yeah.
Charlie knows what I'm on about.
I mean,
it was a good game.
Very, very, very good advice as well for anyone who is thinking of DMing or has been DMing for a long time, that stepping down and stepping away is always an option. And you shouldn't hurt yourself for the sake of your game, because it's meant to be fun. You are meant to be enjoying yourself as much as the players are. Have fun. Does anyone else got anything
for this? I've kind of two-ish. So the first one is more of a personal one. D&D's helped me a lot. I come from, on my mother's side, a family of storytellers, and I've always kind of wanted to embody that. I've always wanted to try storytelling. I tried writing, didn't work for me. I tried kind of acting, I tried theatre, and while I enjoyed them, they never kind of scratched that itch. They never kind of made me feel comfortable with the stories that I was telling. And I got really frustrated with it, and I got to this kind of creatively very dark place where I didn't want to tell stories anymore, just because I was never them. I never enjoyed them. I never had fun. And then I got to college, and I'd been thinking about this whole D&D thing. And I literally ran into a girl in the hall in the class with me, noticed she played D&D, and said, okay, let's give this a shot. And it was one of the most creatively liberating experiences that I've had. And I nearly gave up on storytelling, creative literature, all of that as a whole, because I stopped enjoying it. And without D&D, I would have given up on it. So it's really helped me personally. And on a second note, when it comes to D&D helping with anxiety and, feeling like that, I can prove that work with science and maths, because I wrote a thing about this 2 years ago. I got a bunch of people together and hosted D&D games periodically, and got them, among other tests, to do basically social anxiety disorder level tests to see the levels of anxiety they were presenting at the time. And you watch as people got severely invested in D&D, the levels of anxiety that they were displaying dropped by about 30-40%. And it was mad. It was really, really interesting.
Did you call it the Game to Grow paper?
I didn't, but I did, in fact, interview Game to Grow. It's where I found out about them, because it was I was the guy who presented Game to Grow as the charity when we were thinking about it, and I interviewed them for that paper.
Nice.
John and or Sam, have you got? John, off you go.
Yeah, for me, D&D was less of a stress relief or a way to deal with sort of mental issues. But what I found great about D&D and tabletop role-playing games in general is, I grew up playing sports, so I played like hockey. I swam in I was in a swimming team. I was on a rugby team, and it's that same sort of vibe for me because you're with a group, your group of players and the DM. You're a team, and when you succeed, you celebrate, and when you fail, you're like, okay, how can we do better? And it's that sort of like mentality. And for people that maybe don't like sport or are a bit too intimidated to pick it up, D&D is a great alternative in my opinion. Obviously there's not the same physical health benefits, but for the sort of friendship making, team building, I think it's just as good, if not better. So that's where I come from it. To me, and it was always funny because when I was I'd go play in D&D, and then after, I'd play rugby and then go play D&D. So when I was at rugby, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna go do something else, bye. And then when I got to D&D, they were like, where have you been? I was like, oh, nowhere. I was nowhere. I was like, I was keeping it a secret from both, and I was like, why am I doing this? This is dumb. It's like, yeah, I play D&D and rugby. Screw it.
Yeah.
I'll do what I want.
Yeah. Sam, what about yourself?
So personally, it has always been a way of getting out, my whatever creative stuff I had stored up, because I could do voices. I liked acting, do voices. I can write stuff. It's just a creative outlet. And this is going to get soppy and a little kind of existential. Something I realized as when all of this COVID stuff hit and we couldn't see each other anymore, I found that both myself and people that I play D&D with, it's less of an excuse to go and do D&D. D&D is more of a meeting place. You go to do D&D not only just because, it's creative, we can be wizards. It's you're having an experience with other people. And since the dawn of man, we are inherently social creatures, and D&D is one of the most social things you can do, because you can't do it by yourself, really. You need other people, and sometimes the more you have, the more fun you have. But even doing D&D online, if it's done right, sometimes you go into a D&D and I'm we're gonna play D&D, that's it. But the way that I like to run games is we meet for D&D, we talk first. I mean, it's online, so you can't really have a full-on conversation, but you talk first, and then you play D&D whilst still talking and having fun as friends, and then you end it as friends. I've gotten closer to so many more people that I played D&D with than I would with people that I might spend more regular time with. It's just, has it helped with anxiety and stuff? I don't know, because I've just gotten more confident over time. But as far as something to have fun and just be social, D&D is a great excuse to do that, I guess. But yeah, that's my take on it. Sorry for getting all worldly about it.
It's all good, buddy. You did mention the C word, though, and that means that we're going to have to dock you. I'm sorry. It's just, you're not, we're not allowed to anymore. John?
Just sort of because I thought this when Sam was speaking. During this whole not being allowed to see people, I think D&D is the thing that's kept me sane. Being able to talk to people, but also us six and everyone else in the society, none of us are on the same course, I believe, or at least most of us aren't. We don't necessarily all have the same hobbies or we come from the same place, but we all have one thing in common, that's the love for tabletop RPGs. And I find it's weird that it's brought so many different people from different backgrounds and different talents and different courses to just love something and become friends because of that. And it's not when we're together we only talk about D&D. We talk about just general things, we're actually friends. That's the big thing about this, is become friends because of
impossible.
It. So I'm not gonna lie, if I saw you on the rugby team, I'd be like, Get out of here! What are you doing here?
As soon as
Get out
you
of
walked
here.
in, I was like, "This isn't a sports club. Get out of here, John."
Yeah. It's like, sorry, the weight wound's down the end. But yeah, that's why I love D&D and tabletop RPGs.
I think most of the mates that I've kept in contact with regularly through this are the friends I made through D&D.
Mm.
Especially the fact that I live with Charlie, which helps.
I know what you mean, Beth. We live in entirely separate buildings.
Yeah,
That's not your
totally.
fault at all. I would go banging it, but that means going across my room, and you're just not worth the effort, Beth.
Yeah, I think
I
for
know
me,
my worth.
D&D kept me afloat because all of my social engagement stopped when COVID hit, because obviously we were, banned from people, and so like
People
D&D
privileges
was
revoked.
my entire socialization just became D&D, and it's what kept me going, because it was the only hobby I could do, even with COVID, and it was it's been so helpful to that. Really sorry to Neve XXC. We don't quite have time to answer the last question, but thank you very much for tuning in today, and thank you for tuning in.
It was great.
this week.
Mhm.
You guys have been awesome. You guys in this call, and the people behind the scenes, and all of the players, and everyone that has helped us get this together have been awesome, and we appreciate
It's
it.
been wild,
Yeah.
honestly.
Been a journey.
Mhm.
Sam, do you have any closing words for us?
My closing words are to thank every single one of you for the jobs that you have all done collectively to make this amazing. Also, an update on the final total that we hit. It actually went up before donations closed, so we reached the big $2,500. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for your questions. They've been really good. Thank you. Just thank you. There's
Thank
endless amounts of thank yous
you.
to everyone. We appreciate everyone and whatever. Yeah, just thank you. That's all I have to say
Thank you
anymore.
all. You're all great.
We love all of you so much for helping us make this possible.
And thank you everyone who donated to the awesome charity.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Guess the big
Peace.
waves. Bye bye, guys.
Big wave.
Bye-bye.
Biggest wave wins.
It's my kid show. You've got to wave.
I know, I feel like a presenter.
Bye bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Till next time.
And on that bomb.